Portsmouth isn't quaint anymore. It actually is flirting with 7 figures, pushing into the low 1 millions on some reports. Today we're breaking down the real pros and cons of living in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, from the booming downtown to the million-dollar price tags. I've been doing this for 23 years here on the Seacoast, and I'll show you exactly where it shines and where buyers get surprised. Pro number 1, culture and stimulation. The booming downtown. Let me start with this. Most people hear small New Hampshire city and they picture quiet nights and not much going on. Well, that's not Portsmouth. The downtown feels alive in a way that most places 3 or 4 times the size just can't pull off. And I'm not talking about chain restaurants. It's chef-driven spots, wine bars, and rooftop dining. National travel coverage has described Portsmouth as a small foodie heaven with an absurd selection of restaurants, which is exactly how it feels on the ground. Now it goes way beyond food. The music hall brings in national touring acts. Jimmy's Jazz and Blues Club is marketed as New Hampshire's premier listening room and has quickly become one of the region's standout live jazz venues. We have galleries, independent bookstores, a theater, you name it. Prescott Park runs a full outdoor arts festival every summer right on the waterfront. And Strawberry Bank Museum is a 10-acre outdoor complex that covers more than 300 years of American life. It anchors the historic district with real depth, not just some decorative charm. And that same tight concentration of culture and amenities is exactly why getting around without a car is so practical here. But we'll talk about this later. So yeah, the downtown has that rare quality where it's generally fun to be in on a Tuesday afternoon and not just a Saturday night. For retirees or remote workers who want stimulation built into their daily routine, Portsmouth makes that easy. And a city that's livable doesn't stay a secret, right? Which brings us to what popularity actually costs you. Con number 1, priced out, the home price reality. Yeah, that desirability has a cost, a real one. Let me just put it on the table. Portsmouth prices have climbed into a range that surprises even seasoned buyers. When you cross-reference Zillow's typical home value, Redfin's recent sales medians, and other trackers, typical home values in Portsmouth are running from the high 700s for starter homes into the multi-millions depending on the neighborhood, the property type, and the condition. Realtor.com's snapshot of Portsmouth shows median listing prices in the low 800,000s for the broader city. Downtown in the historic South End district, especially close to the water or Market Square, tend to skew much higher, often into the multi-millions. And listen, this isn't a little spike that goes away next season. Over the past decade, the broader trend line has been up, even with short-term fluctuations. Families who grow up in the area are having a genuine hard time buying near their parents' home. The city that pulled people in for the community and generational roots is getting harder to stay in generationally. If you're coming in from the outside on a fixed income or a retirement budget, go in with clear eyes. The rest of the Seacoast, Dover, Rochester, even parts of Durham still have more room, and recent Seacoast overviews consistently show Portsmouth at near the top or top of New Hampshire's price ladder. Bottom line, knowing these numbers up front saves you a lot of time. Now, before we get to what's driving those prices up, there's an economic asset most people overlook entirely. Hey, quick pause here. If you're seriously weighing the Seacoast and you want a straight conversation about what's realistic for your situation, my contact info is in the description below. I've been doing this for 23 years and I've worked with people making this exact move every day. So let's keep going. Pro number 2, Pease International Tradeport, a hidden economic engine. Okay, so most people researching Portsmouth never even think to put Pease International Tradeport on the pro list. That's a mistake. Pease Tradeport is a large business and aviation park on the footprint of the old Pease Air Force Base, just outside downtown. It's home to hundreds of companies and thousands of employees across tech, biotech, insurance, manufacturing, logistics, and the whole mix. Lonza, one of the biggest pharmaceutical contract manufacturers in the world, has a major facility there. And Portsmouth International Airport at Pease gives you commercial flights without dealing the chaos of Logan. Now here's what Pease actually does for Portsmouth that most people don't appreciate. It keeps a huge chunk of the jobs and the heavier business activity outside the downtown core. So the downtown gets to be what you want it to be. Restaurants, shops, culture, walkability. It stays livable. If Pease doesn't exist a few miles away carrying that load, downtown would feel completely different, like way more congested and more corporate. Less fun to be in, actually. The point is, part of why Portsmouth feels like a real downtown is because Pease is doing a lot of the economic lifting right down the road. That said, and I mean this, Pease earns a spot on the con list too, and I'd be doing you a disservice not putting it there. Con number 2, Pease. The flip side, yeah, Pease is an airport, so you're going to get flight traffic, and depending on where you live in Portsmouth, you will hear the planes. Some residents barely notice it, and it becomes background noise, but here's what can catch people off guard. Other residents find regular interruption, especially if you're lined up with certain approach paths. So you can't just swing by once and assume that's what it's like. One of the things I always tell people is, if you're serious about a neighborhood, go there at different times before you buy. Go in the morning, go in the afternoon, go in the evening. Don't only go once on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Now, the other flip side is what the growth out at Pease does to the feel of certain areas. With ongoing development, parts of Portsmouth can take on a more industrial vibe and a less of that historic charm people come here for. You see larger commercial buildings, logistics infrastructure, and construction that's still moving along. And honestly, that's not what most people picture when they think of quaint seacoast city. And there's also a real community conversation happening about how much growth should be pushed into that corridor. Plus, what the environmental legacy of an old Air Force base means long term. Both sides of the coin are real. Pease is an asset. It's also a trade-off. Know which direction the wind blows near the neighborhood you're eyeing, literally. That can matter more than people think. So with that context in place, let's talk about what actually draws most people to Portsmouth in the first place. Pro number 3, the coast. Ocean, beaches, and that waterfront lifestyle. Here's the thing, Portsmouth sits at the mouth of the Piscataqua River between New Hampshire and Maine. And the waterfront lifestyle here isn't just marketing talk. It's just daily life. And it's honestly pretty rare for a downtown that's this functional. You've got restaurants that look straight out at the water. You've got Prescott Park with views of the river and the working harbor. There's a riverside walk. There are marinas, yacht clubs, the whole package. And if you're a boat person, this is a big deal. You can store a boat, get out to open water fast. You can be headed toward the Isles of Shoals with a short run from the harbor. Boat ownership here isn't some fancy status thing, just what people do. Now let's talk about the beaches, because this part is important too. Rye Beach, Northampton State Beach, and Hampton Beach are all a short drive from downtown Portsmouth, which means you can have real downtown energy and still be at the beach quickly. We will get to this civic investment later. You're going to see that Portsmouth has been funding a way to reach those beaches without a car at all. But the point here is, this is what a lot of people spend their whole lives looking for. A downtown that's walkable and has real culture with the water right there, not 45 minutes away, right there. So if that's the mix that you want, Portsmouth is one of the very few places at this scale. But the same geography that makes coastal lifestyle so easy also creates a real constraint, and that's exactly where we're going next. Con number 3, lack of land. Space and privacy are hard to find. All right, here's the geographical reality nobody shows you in the listing photos. Portsmouth is physically small and it's boxed in. You've got the river, the harbor, and then you've got several centuries of dense historic development that's already baked into the layout. So if you move into downtown or the South End, which is the historic district, you're signing up for a specific trade. Lots are modest, homes are close together, yard space is limited, and that's just how it is. And the historic district looks exactly like what it is. These are 18th and 19th century homes built at a time when nobody needed a 2-car garage or a backyard setup for entertaining. They're beautiful, they're charming, but they're just not spacious. Finding anything close to downtown more than an acre is genuinely rare. And honestly, even a full acre in that area would be considered a big find, not the norm. Now, as you move towards neighborhoods like the West End or Tucker's Cove, you get a little bit more breathing room, you might get a little bit more separation, but you're still not getting the kind of privacy and space you'll find in places like Bedford or Wyndham, or most of the Merrimack Valley. So just keep that in mind. People don't move to downtown for the land, but for the lifestyle. And if you're wondering how that tight footprint affects new construction options and what developers are doing about it, that's exactly where we're headed next. Pro number 4, always growing, real civic investment. A lot of cities coast on their history. Portsmouth doesn't. One of the things that jumps out right away is Portsmouth Public Library. It's widely regarded as one of the best in New Hampshire. It's well funded and people actually use it. It's a real community anchor. There's an old idea that a city's library tells you everything you need to know whether it really invests in its people, and Portsmouth passes that test. Now let's talk about healthcare, because this matters, especially if you're thinking about retirement. Portsmouth Regional Hospital is a significant regional hospital and designated trauma center right in the city, offering advanced services like cardiac care, neurosurgery, oncology, and stroke treatment. In recent years, it has earned recognition from health grades and similar rating organizations for overall performance, patient safety, surgical care, stroke care, and other specialties. And this isn't some small community facility. You've got advanced cardiac care, neurosurgery, and oncology. If you want that level of care inside city limits, this is a big deal. Now on to the infrastructure side. The New Hampshire Seacoast Greenway has been in Portsmouth's long-term capital planning for more than a decade, not just a random idea that popped up last year. The city's portion of the trail is about 3.6 miles along a former rail corridor between Barbary Lane and the Greenland Town Line, tying into a larger Seacoast route that now offers an extended off-road path between Portsmouth and communities to the south. A major segment began opening the second half of 2024, and by this year, the rail trail will be in active use. So Portsmouth isn't just resting on colonial charm. It keeps putting money into things that make a city livable for a long term. And if you're thinking about this as a permanent home, that's a meaningful signal. But the flip side of that investment is a development landscape that creates a real friction for buyers. And here's what that looks like on the ground. Con number 4, development congestion, no room to build. All that investment in desirability create a structural problem you need to understand before you start your home search. There's almost no vacant land left inside the city limits. The historic core is built out. The waterfront is built out. The south end is built out. There just isn't a bunch of open space sitting around waiting for new neighborhoods. So when new housing does get developed and the market absolutely needs it, it almost always shows up as condo buildings and infill projects. That usually means replacing older commercial or industrial uses, not carving out fresh lots like you'd see in a suburb. And that's where you start to see the real pushback from existing residents. Taller buildings can block sightlines. Bigger structure can change the feel of a street. The scale of some new construction can feel out of step with the colonial and maritime architecture that defines Portsmouth. These are legitimate concerns, and the debate is ongoing. It can get contentious because people are talking about character, livability, and what Portsmouth is supposed to look like in 10 or 20 years. Now, if you want new construction, like a freshly built home on a clean lot with modern mechanicals, Portsmouth proper is going to frustrate you. New build inventory is extremely limited, and what does exist usually carries a significant premium. Most buyers here are working with older homes instead, and that comes with its own set of considerations. I'm talking about maintenance, system, and renovation costs. You're not just shopping for a house, but also thinking about what it's going to take to bring it up to what you want. If what you want is that traditional subdivision style setup, new homes on new streets, you're typically looking in neighboring towns like Greenland, Newington, and possibly Rye. You're still close, but you're not in Portsmouth proper. All of that said, Portsmouth does have something that most New Hampshire cities simply can't offer. And for a lot of buyers, it's the thing that tips the decision. Pro number 5, the rail trail and real walkability. Portsmouth is one of the very few places in New Hampshire where you can actually walk to your life. It doesn't mean a cute little sidewalk to nowhere. I mean, you can walk to dinner, coffee, a concert, the waterfront, and just handle your day without feeling like you have to drive everywhere. Downtown and the South End are genuinely walkable in a way that's rare in the state. The blocks are tight, the sidewalks actually connect, and the stuff you want is close together. It doesn't feel like you're playing Frogger across giant roads just to grab a coffee. If you live in neighborhoods within a comfortable walking distance of downtown, a lot of your daily routine can be done on foot. That's groceries, quick errands, meeting a friend, grabbing a bite, and taking a walk after dinner. And for anyone thinking about a stage of life where relying less on a car sounds better, that's a real quality of life upgrade. Now add the rail trail into the mix. The Seacoast Greenway segment in Portsmouth gives you a dedicated path for biking and walking that ties into the bigger Seacoast network as it builds out, including connections south toward Northampton and Hampton as sections have opened. So it's not just, hey, we have a cute downtown. It's also, hey, you can move through the area in a way that feels safe and easy. That's cool because it changes how the city feels day to day. You're not stuck thinking in parking lots and traffic. You can get outside, move around, clear your head, and still end up somewhere useful. And zooming out for a second, you are also not isolated here. You've got the whole New England corridor at your fingertips. Boston is roughly an hour down I-95, if not less, plus easy access north towards Portland, Maine. So you get a small city vibe, but you're also still positioned very well for everything around you. Portsmouth has figured out how to feel small in the right ways without cutting you off from the rest of the region. But that same magnetic pull, the culture, the coast, the walkability, it has a consequence. And every prospective resident needs to walk into it with their eyes open. And it's the last con on the list for a reason. Tourist congestion, the double-edged sword. All right, this is one of the trade-off that comes with everything that we've been talking about. Everything that makes Portsmouth worth living in also makes it very, very crowded. Prescott Park's outdoor arts facility pulls in large crowds throughout the summer. Strawberry Bank, the music hall, waterfront restaurants, the historic tours. These are regional and national attractions. And Portsmouth gets put on the best of lists consistently. So every time someone reads one of those lists and decides they're doing a weekend trip, they end up on the same streets you're going to live on. In peak season, Memorial Day through Labor Day, downtown parking becomes a real challenge. Not annoying, like real. You can feel it. Restaurants, wait times stretch out. The places you normally pop into on a random weekend, now you're standing around like, okay, this is a whole thing. Locals get smart about it. People time errands around the cruise ship schedule and the Prescott Park concert calendar, because certain nights and certain streets just aren't worth it. You learn the rhythm pretty fast. The culture and stimulation that define this city bring very large number of visitors each year into very small geographic footprints. That's the math, and it doesn't change. Most residents make peace with it. Some people genuinely love it. It feels fun, it feels alive. It feels like something's always happening. But if you're looking for a quiet coastal escape where you feel like a local in a sleepy town, Portsmouth is going to surprise you. The energy here is consistent, especially in the summer. So just know what you're signing up for. Okay, now let's get back to our last pro. Pro number 6, convenience. Everything you need, plus Boston, an hour away. Here's something that gets overlooked when people focus on the lifestyle of Portsmouth. The practical side is just as strong. Day-to-day convenience is built in. You're not driving 45 minutes just to knock out a basic errand. It's close, it's right there, and walkable downtown means a lot of it is doable on foot if you're in the right pocket. You're not planning your whole week around a run to Target and a grocery trip. You can actually just handle life as it comes. Quick stops, quick errands, done. Now let's talk about Boston, because this is a huge part of the value here. Portsmouth sits about an hour down 95 from Boston in typical traffic. Close enough to catch a game, see a specialist, fly internationally out of Logan, or keep those professional connections alive. You get access without making it your commute. That's the difference. You can go down when you need it and then back to Portsmouth. And that's the equation a lot of Massachusetts transplants are running when they land here. Access without Boston's level of cost of living. Even though Portsmouth itself is on the higher end for our housing and overall expenses, it's hard to argue with the math. So Portsmouth isn't isolated, it's positioned. And for retirees or remote workers who want a full life without depending on a major metro, that positioning is a big part of the value here. Conclusion, this place rewards people who go in with clear eyes. Get that equation right, and it's one of the best places to land in New England. So if you're weighing the seacoast and you want to know which neighborhoods still have room before spring inventory tightens, shoot me an email, adam@thedowgroup.com. I've been doing this for 23 years, and I can tell you exactly what's realistic at your price point. And if you want the bigger picture on why Portsmouth and New Hampshire as a whole, the video linked here breaks it down. No income tax, no sales tax, town-controlled government. Once you understand that, it changes how you think about everything we just covered. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.